Welcome to this week's Pick a Crystal, The Path to Healing. This reading is going to discuss about how you can manage your depression, sadness, or any of those difficult feelings that we've been holding on for a very long time. So I want you to take a moment and I want you to pick the crystal that calls to you the most. We have Apatite, we have Jade, and we have Labradorite. So we're going to start with Apatite. Okay, so we have Apatite. Beautiful crystal. So here we go. We're going to start with Apatite. So the first question is the card that represents your depression. And we have love. So I feel like this could be, if you're in a relationship, perhaps, relationships are falling apart. The connection doesn't feel the same. Everything is sort of like wilting. Or you could be missing or wanting to be loved. A lack of self-love. Being overly critical of yourself. Experiencing judgment. And lack of emotional or mental support. So there's a lot of self-love here. And wanting to be loved. Perhaps you feel lonely, alone, loneliness, wanting to be connected with others, and probably feeling disconnected, not just within yourself, but from others, feeling isolated, and your desire to be loved, to be accepted. So the next question is something you need to learn about your depression. And we have Mars, Force. So what do you need to learn about your depression? Well, perhaps it's probably pretty, persistent in your life. Probably something you've been battling a long time. And something that probably feels very overwhelming and sort of like takes over, But I also want you to look at, what do you learn from it? You learn that you have perseverance, that you have the ability to face difficult challenges, and the question here is, are you willing to fight for yourself? What is the force that drives you? Because, Mars is considered to be the bully planet, so perhaps you're experiencing bullying, or perhaps it's something, your depression was based off of bullying. Perhaps you experienced bullying, or perhaps you're in self-bullying, talking bad to yourself, thinking bad about yourself, being self-deprecating, so it's like asking you, how much are you willing to fight for yourself? And that's something you can learn from your depression. What drives that? What's the force behind the foundation? Because we feel things, but we don't always know at hand what it is that drives these feelings. So what is it? You have to ask yourself, what is driving your depression, your sadness? Perhaps it's the people you're surrounded by with. You have to look at many, many things of what could be contributing to your depression, to your sadness. Okay, so then we have the next one is an action you can take to help your depression. And we have teach. So I feel like this has to be, you need to be willing to unlearn what has been installed into you. Looking even more on how to manage, your traumas and the things that you've been through. Research, because if you see she's looking in a book, perhaps as you see that she's talking to an audience, she's teaching an audience, perhaps you will best heal yourself by talking about your experiences, sharing, being able to express the things that have happened to you, perhaps joining a support group because you see she's surrounded, with people, perhaps counseling, therapy, participating in therapeutic practices, or even reflecting on old patterns, because she's looking at the book. So perhaps there's something that you keep doing that contributes, to your sadness and depression, perhaps even generational trauma, because that could be the Ashake book, the book of the past from family line, or even perhaps becoming more trauma informed, really dive into why you feel the way you do and what you can do about it. Teach yourself how to manage these feelings. Teach yourself how to understand what you're going through on a very, very deep level. All right. So then we have, how can you show more compassion to yourself? And we have, look at that, Shirion, the wounded healer. And we have healing. Okay. So this, I feel, is saying, to believe. The action you can take is believing that healing is possible. Or even practicing self-care, taking care of your body, nurturing yourself, probably even gifting yourself. Get yourself flowers, give yourself that token of self-love, or viewing life as an experience than having that self-resentment for not knowing any better. We always, even when we're the ones being mistreated, we still take on the blame. Why did I allow this? Why didn't leave sooner? Why this? Why that? Perhaps shifting that kind of thinking, and saying, I learned through a very hard path, but I learned, So with this, we have Shiri and the wood and healing. So perhaps taking up healing modalities, perhaps you should probably dive into becoming a therapist, or someone that can help others, because you've led a certain type of life, by experience, so you can help yourself by helping others. And with this, with Shirion, a good quote comes from Rumi. He says, "The wound is the place where light enters." Okay, so that's where, wear your battle scars proudly, because it just shows that you're seasoned, you've been through things, speak up, perhaps that can help you. Be vocal, express yourself, show that kind of vulnerability, okay? Then we have, how can you find joy in your life presently? And we have daydreams and decisions. So basically, do just that. Daydream. Envision positive goals for yourself that will help get you motivated. Start small goals, completing small goals, perhaps, like tasks that have been left undone for a while. It doesn't always have to be something big and great, and sometimes it's the small things that can help. As they say, the victory is in the details. So if you have left a project undone and you just left it in the back burner because you lost, like motivation for perhaps, taking it up again, doing something, envisioning a beautiful, more positive life for yourself. And then we have the last one is a reason to stay strong. And we have Gemini, I think. Now for me, the first thing I think about is my favorite, actually, from Descartes, which he says, I think, therefore I am. So your strength will come from how you think and how you perceive not just your world, but yourself. So how do you view yourself? Try to see things, try to see life that it's beautiful. To have the bigger picture of things, and to realize that you haven't given up, you're still here. And if you came upon this message, it's because you're actually listening to your soul, because your soul is trying to communicate with you and try to help you heal, because you are intelligent, you have a lot to offer to this world on a very mental level. So think about it, think. How do you think? How do you think about the world? How do you think about yourself? How could you manage your depression, your sadness, these really tough feelings, Seek out information, because this kind of mental stimulation will perhaps help you on an emotional and spiritual level. Okay, so that's pile 1. If you've chosen the Apatite, that is your message for how you can manage your depression or sadness. So now we're going to go to pile 2, which is the Jade. So now we have Jade. It's a pretty cool crystal. So the question here again is the card that represents your depression. And we have well-deserved reward. So I feel like this could be feelings of not feeling seen, or perhaps unreciprocated gestures, perhaps unreciprocated love. Feeling like you give more than what you get back, feeling unworthy, undeserving, perhaps feeling unaccomplished, like you haven't accomplished much in your life. Feeling overlooked, taken for granted, perhaps even feelings that you have bad luck, wondering, when your life will change. Okay. So then we have something you need to learn about the depression. And we have I Transform, Scorpio. Interesting card. So what you need to learn about your depression is your ability to transform. Okay, and that your opinion on unfavorable events are a part of your transformation. And allowing these changes to occur by release, shedding of the old skin, shedding of the old, and that's, to not fight against the forces, that you feel like perhaps they're against you, and to realize that you are stronger than what you give yourself credit for. Also, I feel like this could also be, issues from a past life, that you've experienced. They could be issues, that you need to learn now in this present life. So that it could be one of the reasons why you're having a tough go at it. Become resourceful, and to understand that the external influence, things that happen outside of you are also notes of progress, and perhaps even you might even need to consider, seeking professional help. I feel like we should end the stigma, that, we always look down on therapy, but it's actually a great thing. It's a great healing modality. So you also can consider that, if you have the access to it, why not, right? So, this I Transform, allow you, that's something you need to learn about your feelings, the ability to transform from something old into something new. So then it's like, what action can you take to help your depression? And we have Spread Your Wings. Beautiful card. So for me, I feel like saying, basically what it says, spread your wings, take your best foot forward. Walk towards the light as you see her arms is spread wide open, flying past fear, and have the willingness to break vicious cycles. If it's something that you've experienced since childhood or witnessed, perhaps you need to end. Perhaps it's up to you to end, this vicious cycle, to break free of guilt, self-shame, because she has her arms extended out, so it's basically just breaking free from your emotional and mental imprisonment, to make a decision to step outside your comfort zone and to stick with it. Okay. And then we have, how can you show yourself more compassion? And we have Venus, love. So I feel like this could be, because we have transformation there, so it's like the love of your journey. Don't be so focused so much on the end result, but to love the things that have happened to you, or perhaps not love, because you go, how can I love, this traumatic stuff that happens to me? Maybe not that, but love what you've learned, love what it has made you, not the flaws that you are so keen on pointing out, but the good things. What have you learned? Perhaps you learned to stand up for yourself. Perhaps you learned how to establish boundaries. Get to know yourself, to put an end to getting it, doing things by yourself. Perhaps even doing things you love that bring you happiness. That's a good way to bring compassion to yourself. Perhaps be more social. If you spend a long time being alone and introverted, this could be a good time to be more social. Being kind to yourself. Watch how you talk to yourself. Doing things that bring you peace. Perhaps even if it's possible, taking a getaway. As my mom would say, a mental vacation. Cut yourself off from the world for a little bit. Do things that will give you peace. So if that means that you have to, just cut off everything, social media, and take that moment, do so. That's a perfect way also to show compassion to yourself. To allow yourself rest without self-shame. Because if you're resting but you're shaming yourself, then you're not really resting now, are you? Or perhaps like beautiful Venus, Aphrodite, beautify yourself. Even if you have nowhere to go, get ready. Take a nice bath with oils and herbs and all the good things. Cut your hair, do your makeup. Do things that will make you feel good, because the process of beautifying yourself will really help boost your self-esteem and how you feel, So that's how you can show some compassion to yourself. Now we have, how can you find joy in your life presently? And we have simply love. A lot of love in this deck. So I feel perhaps viewing, your life through the eyes of a child, or nurturing your inner child, because this could be definitely about inner healing, healing the inner child within you, perhaps giving yourself the consolation and attention you wish you had when you were young, or if you had a good childhood, which that's great, perhaps remember times when you were happy. And if you're saying right now, like, I've never been, then you know what? It is time to do it, don't you think? Or if you have children, be a child with your children. Or even if you don't have kids, be a kid, allow kids to teach you, let them teach you the curiosity, how it is to have fun, to not have a single care in the world, just only with the focus of enjoyment. Okay, simply love, the skin you're in, who you've become, okay? And then we have a reason to stay strong. And then we have the 10th house, the world. So, perhaps it's a little cliches, but the world is your oyster, that the world could be in the palm of your hands, and it is, that your life has purpose, and to see the bigger picture beyond, because sometimes we can be very narrow-minded and fixed in our ways, so open your mind, and understand also the life purpose is not always about accomplishments, but by the depth of your heart, what you as a person are, what you've contributed to your life and to others, whether they appreciate it or not, as we see, well deserved, perhaps you're feeling taken for granted, but that's on them if they can appreciate it, but you have a great big heart, so that is a life purpose as well, and to understand that you are supported, even if you can't see it, and that you really aren't alone. Sometimes we feel alone, we feel disconnected because we shut ourselves off, we close ourselves off, And then when series of unfortunate events happen, we feel alone, like we were left abandoned, and that could trigger, like from the past, from past lives, or that could be from when you were a child, that feeling of rejection and abandonment, and those kind of feelings could, make things worse. All right. So if you chose the jade crystal, that is how you can possibly manage your depression or sadness. Okay, so then we're going to go now to the Labradorite pile. So for those who chose the Labradorite, isn't that a beautiful flash? Look at that. Gorgeous. Okay. So for those who chose the Labradorite pile. So the cards to represent your depression. And we have the solar plexus chakra. Okay. So you could be feeling creatively blocked, or the feelings of the inability to create the life you want. You probably feel like manifesting is delayed, feeling stagnant and stuck, perhaps not even optimistic, the lack of will, you're perhaps feeling unmotivated, lack of confidence, lack of self-esteem, feeling disconnected from your inner knowing, perhaps your ability to trust your gut instinct. You probably feel like it's poor. You probably feel like you have poor judgment. Perhaps you're even experiencing like nausea, stomach issues, stomach cramps, things in the stomach area. Okay, so then we have something you need to learn about your depression. And what we have is Libra. We have balance. So there is a lot of balance that is needed in your life right now. Perhaps balancing, the masculine energy. And to understand, as they say, that the chaos within reflects to the outside, So the things that are happening outside could be a direct reflection of the things that are happening within you. And Libra is the sign of partnerships, so this definitely is like about not doing things alone. And to understand that ultra independence is also a trauma response, okay? That feeling like I have to do everything by myself so I don't get disappointed by others, I'm never going to trust again. Understand that is also a trauma response, okay? Perhaps you've been a person always over-sacrificing. Perhaps like I was saying before, poor boundaries, fear of being alone. That's what you need to understand about your depression. Perhaps you're afraid to be alone, and confusing the ideology of alone versus lonely, because you can be by yourself and love the company you're with. Okay, this could also be about codependency, indecisiveness, questioning your inner knowing, and merging. Perhaps even merging the light and the shadow, the dark and the light, So there's some instability that's happening. So you need to know that about the stuff that you're going through. It has a lot to do about instability. All right, so then it's like, the next one is an action you can take to help your depression. And we have the base chakra, another chakra. So this could also be things that you might need to work on, the base and the solar. So the action you can take is basically healing the base chakra. So getting to the bottom of the why, or why you're afraid, and how you can push past your fear. Perhaps, because, the base chakra is about feeling safe, stability and groundingness. Again, we're talking about feeling stable, that balance, perhaps doing things or finding and having relationships that make you safe can really help you with the action you can take against your depression and these harsh feelings. Do things that provide stability, having a higher perspective that wealth also is a concept, because the base chakra has to do with financial issues too. So you could be really, really focused on money, money worries, but you have to also understand that although money helps, it should not be the foundation of your happiness. Okay, so you can also participate in grounding exercises, seeking counseling, as I said before, that can help you manage getting out of survival mode trauma. Okay, and establishing perhaps a healthy home and environment, because the base chakra also has to do with shelter and home. So, getting out of a toxic environment, toxic relationships, getting into a space that makes you feel safe and stable. Okay, so that is an action that you need to take, providing that balance, that stability. Okay, the next one is, how can you show yourself more compassion? And we have fortune, increase. So I feel like this could be about being grateful for your experiences, praising your perseverance, and not really giving into your difficult challenges. Give yourself credit where it's due. Going with the flow, which as little resistance as possible. Okay, take up art therapy. Honor your feelings, allowing yourself to process. In constant self-talk. And completing obtainable goals. Okay, so I feel like this has to do a lot about being grateful and really seeing how you could increase your overall wellness in your life. Okay. Then we have, how can you find joy in your life presently? So it seems it has to be a lot about money issues, success and growth. And yes, of course, money matters, because unfortunately in this world we live, everything is about money and we need money to survive. But we cannot just hold on to that, because you could have everything, house, cars, and still be like really, really unhappy, because happiness comes from within, okay, not outside. So how can you find joy? So perhaps like celebrating your success and your growth of how far you've come. Perhaps even celebrating, your recovery. Celebrate leaving things that are no good for you. Reminding yourself that you are enough. Honoring your progress. And being able to move forward when you're feeling stuck. Praise yourself. Even for the small things, And so also that even though we may feel things, but it doesn't mean we understand what we feel. Because a lot of people, they experience a lot of emotions, but then when you ask them, what is it that you're feeling? They're like, I don't know. So just because you feel something doesn't mean that you actually know what it is. You don't know the foundation, the base. You see the chakra of the base. We don't know the base of what is going on. So you need to listen to what your soul really wants, and to praise yourself for the growth and for you to even consider trying to heal and to self-heal, okay? So that's how you can find joy in your life. And so the last card is a reason to stay strong. And you have Aquarius. I know. So this is, I feel, has to do with knowing that you are the co-creator of your future. And to know that you have the ability to give your life what it needs and what it asks for. There's a quote by a guy named Alan Kay that says, the best way to predict the future is to invent it. Because Aquarius is known to be a very, a mental sign too, a person of intellect. So also it's about living and knowing, that you are free, and that you have a lot of gifts to offer to this world. And this also goes for gifts of understanding, having the gift of compassion, having the gift of listening and being supportive, that there's much life to live, perhaps something even new wants to be birthed through you. Being able, how about wanting to learn more, accessing perhaps even greater technology, to be a person of hope, or accessing, the hope that you have within you that is still there, or to even step into the unconventional, something that's outside the norm. So these are reasons to stay strong, step out of the comfort zone, discover yourself, expand. If you want to be successful, if your bottom of success means happiness, be willing to do unconventional things to get it. Okay, so that is pile number 3, Labradorite, for the path to healing. So I hope you guys enjoyed the cards that the pile that you've chose. I'm not sure if I introduced myself, but I'm Palladian Star Healer, and I'm going to leave my information in the description box so you can follow me on my social media. And please feel free to like, share, and have some support for me. I would really, really appreciate if you subscribed to my channel. So I hope you guys have a wonderful evening, and I hope to be seeing you really, really soon.